Darlene from Led Zeppelin's CODA album, 1982. Originally, I think, was going to be on In Through the Outdoor. I mean, I'm sure it was, because the drums, it's the same drum sound as all the other stuff on In Through the Outdoor. But the song essentially has 4 parts, right? You have ba da la da 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 da, right? Then you have ba da 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 right? And then you have ba da 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 ba da, and then you have Okay, so what happens there is the song starts 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Okay, the song just comes right in. It's not very complicated. It's not like... It's just real straight ahead. 3 and 4. Okay, that's really it. So there's sort of a jumping. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 and 4 and... Okay? Da 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 da. Okay, the next part. Okay, what happens there, a good thing for us to do here, like in anything we learn, is to break it down into its small components, right? That's why they don't give little Billy and Sally first grade say, all right, now listen, what's the hypotenuse of the blah, blah, blah? No, they say 1 + 1 is 2, 2 + 2 is 4, and eventually so on and so forth, move forward. Okay, the main beat. To get to the basic core, remember that 2 and 4, right? You have snare beat on 3 E and a 4 E, except Bonham, he goes 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and the whole time, okay? And there's bass drum and a hi-hat bark in there to spice it up. So as it would come in from the top of the song into the 3 and 4. Okay, now there's a couple little details there. Technically speaking, when he remember, every time he comes in, right when he comes in, he doesn't sneak in a hi-hat bark there when he first comes in. He doesn't go, okay? He does not go. It's just after it comes around again. So when it comes in, da. Okay, that's essentially the main groove, okay? A quick interesting aside is, when he first comes in, well, let's see, when he does the 2 and the 4 and, very generally the pattern is... But when he kind of first comes in the song, he doesn't, there's a couple times where he doesn't interject the bass drum note between the snare. Like he'll kind of go... Like the first couple times, especially toward the end of that bar, I don't really hear a bass drum note. It's kind of once it goes around the second time, then you start getting the that one, okay? But the main paradigm. That's the main basic paradigm. You notice we do not have the hi-hat bark there yet. Forget about it for now. Just loop that, okay? 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and a 4 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E. Okay? Make sure that bass drum is on the and before the 4. I messed it up a second ago. So 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E. 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E. That's the basic paradigm. Loop that for a while. Even before you bring in the hi-hat bark, okay? Because the groove of the tune, and he does do 16ths later, it is a very and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1. Even though he doesn't play it that way, that's where those bass drum notes come in though. So 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1. Okay? He's doing the okay, so imagine like sort of that implied. Oops, hang on, my disco pants I got for Christmas are discoing. Gotta do the Keith Moon special. So you could almost, the feel of the groove's almost like the bottom sort of implies it with this groove. And especially when he brings the hi-hat bark in, which is a nice open hi-hat bark, which is a great add for Peiste's 602 or 2002 sound edge hats, which I do not have on here at the moment. I just have my standard Avita Zildjian 15s that I'm going through a fetish for now, which I love. But anyway, so when we come into that hi-hat bark, he doesn't do it right away. He doesn't go ba 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 da ba 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 da 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 and a 2E and a 3. But he doesn't go. He doesn't go. Remember, he waits till it goes around. So when we kick in, okay, there's a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E. 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E. 1E, right? 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 4E and a 1E. Okay? That's what you have going on. So again, like I mentioned, the very first time he goes around the bass drums, there's not quite as many bass drums just for a second, but then he kicks into the main groove. So as we bring in the hi-hat bark into the main groove, you want to just, again, loop that around, because there's a certain feel to it. When you're playing it by itself, even right now if I'm playing it by myself, almost need, when you have the music going, it really makes that, it gives it more of a, you really notice you can't fudge. It's, especially when the music's going, it's easier to do. But when you get that, the 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E. You really need that space between the E and then the 2 and. You need that to not be smudged or rushed. And I think his hi-hat's probably open a little more to get that effect. So you know what I mean? You need that maybe at probably a good inch. Okay? that is essentially the, so that'd be part 2. You have the intro, ba da 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 da, and then you have bounce, 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 da da da, which is what we're doing, okay? Okay, and then what happens is then you have ba ba da da ba da da ba 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 da da, which is a 16th note. He's got 16ths going on. Okay, but what happens there, I'm going to go into the, again, that's it, remember, you notice 16ths again. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2, okay? Now, technically speaking, he could be just doing one hand. Or he could be going... Okay, I'm not really sure what he's doing. Okay, he could, either way, however you want to stick the 16th. And what happens there, it's 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E. The 2 snare notes are on the and of 3 and the and of 4. So 1 and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E. I don't think he barks the hi-hat, but it's probably also helpful to do with your hands doing alternating 16ths. So, but that's essentially da ba da da. So if your snare on theirs goes 3 and 4 and, the important bass drum notes there are the E before the and of 3, the right before the 4, the E right after the 4. Okay, so that's when you have ba ba okay. Okay, 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a... Okay, 3 E and a 4 E and a... You can loop that. 1, 2, 3, 4. And there might be one point in there he might put an extra snare and bass drum note. Wait, what would he do? Well, maybe not. So 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 and 4 E and... 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and, okay? And then just fill in those other 16ths, the E and the Us with the bass drum. Ba and E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E, okay? 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and, okay? But again, try working in those 16ths with your hands. Double, okay? With the, I think the alternating, because it kind of does give it a nice little chug. I mean, he could just be doing... But, I don't know. It's 1/2 of this and 6 dozen of the other. Okay, now we have the next part, the third chunk, okay? Well, wait, that was the third chunk. Now we have the fourth chunk. Okay, now, and there's a couple fills in there. Like when he first comes in, so, like he'll do like he might lead into the downbeat. That happens once. There's another, which is sort of like a real. You really hear Bonham's drums. You can really hear sort of the mojo and the personality of the Into the Outdoor Polar Studios November-ish, December-ish 1978 drums on this recording. And there's also, I didn't realize this, but there's a lot of other, you know, apart from the drums only of like All My Love and Fool in the Rain stuff that you hear that came out a few years ago. There's a bunch of like alternate, not really even alternate takes, just like pre-mixed takes that I'm sure on tape that go all the way to the end, like this song. Like it goes, like it fades out on the record proper, but they play it all the way out and then it just kind of stops on some of these other. So if you type in Darlene, God, what is it on? If you type in Led Zeppelin, there's a fella that, well, in a couple places you can just hear kind of, it's a different mix because everything's maybe not spiced up so much. And mastered, but it also, a lot of these takes run all the way out to the end. Like when you hear, there's another one, All My Love, where they go all, there's no fade out. It goes all the way to the end where it's like, ah! Like they do one of those sort of things at the end. All right, Darlene. So then what happens is you have sort of a swing, sort of boogie-woogie, okay? Now, it's hard for me to tell. I know eventually he does go to the ride, so. Also sounds like he's on the hat for a while. Okay, so what happens there in classic sort of Bonham, almost imagine like, okay, like you'd almost have at the end of The Ocean. Or in live renditions, A Whole Lot of Love, okay? It's very much like a nice swing, swing, and swing, and swing, and swing, and swing, and a swing, and a swing, and a swing, and a swing, 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 okay? But that's what happens at the end of Darlene, okay? Yeah. We're coming up to a money shot. Often in Led Zeppelin tunes, there's often a money shot, okay? That fill, that cool triplet fill that Bonham does. You know, so they're going along, bam, 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 ba da ba da, bam, bam, ba da. You know, Plant's giving you the sort of the Elvis like, oh, okay? But then we have ba da da ba da da ba da da ba da da. Okay, so what happens here, that's what Bonham does. That's a classic thing Bonham used to do, is he do just a simple triplet. A 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1. Except instead of going 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2. He goes back and forth between his right hand and his foot. Except the right hand then goes back and forth between the snare and the floor tom. Ba, 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 ba. Sorry, I added an extra snare drum note there. A left hand pickup. But anyway, it's 4 notes on the snare. Okay? Okay, so what happens there? But what happens there, what's as important, is you can really practice that one-handed. 1, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if you just had your right hand, it would sound like that. 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a... That's why you have 4 notes, because it goes... Your left hand just shadows it. But at full accent. So when it comes in, okay, a 4 and a 1. Well, remember to get that bass drum in there before the a 4 and a 1, okay? So okay. So that's how it'll end. Okay, so as would be played this way. See how I just went to get out of that? That occurs at the end of the. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I should have done this first. Sorry, I'm always asking around. 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a. And it's a great fill. And what happens here, because these drums I have, I just wear these for my hearing protection. Protect my evil hearing. What happens is these drums, this is a 13, a 12, and a 14. I'm just going through different phases of sound. But what happens there, of course, Bonham has this 6.5 by 14 snare, or we presume it is, in this big-ass floor tom. You never know, it could have been 1820. But it's a good way to really hear the sonic quality, too. If you listen to the outtakes of In Through the Outdoor, just listen to In Through the Outdoor, or some of these other mixes that made their way out, just listen to the thickness of Bonham's drums. Again, I've mentioned before in other videos where I think Jimmy Page used to mess with the speed of the recording a bit just to thicken up the note, okay? Because remember, on tape, when they'd record stuff on tape, the tape would be moving, right? So as something happened like, blah, okay? Here's the tape running, okay? Here it comes. Like the Zapruder film, except that would be the other way. But here we go. Da, okay, there's your mark of sound, right? It's almost like a ship going by and an iceberg scrapes it. Scrape, okay? Well, if you slow that down a little bit, it makes each discrete note longer. Okay, thick, lasts longer. So if you had a crisp snare crack, like a Stuart Copeland, like one of those guys. But if you wanted to do a digital edit, analog tape edit back in the day, they would slow that tape down and they'd run that through the head. You'd hear the noise like, instead of hearing snare, it'd be like, it would be a long note, right? So they could figure out exactly where to cut it. Well, that's not why, but that's how they do it. But anyway, I think that's what Jimmy Page did when he would mix a lot of Zeppelin stuff. I think he'd slow it down a little. Not necessarily just for like a haunting, even melodic, like a no quarter, like what would be even melodic or for note's sake, but even just for drum's sake, okay? They could add a couple takes of stuff. They slowed the drums down and then recorded over the top of the slower drums just in regular tunings. Do you know what I mean? But the drums just have a thicker sound. And I kind of hear that there. It might not be the case. It might just be the way his drums sounded with the effects they had on. But it sounds really freaking cool, right? Okay, so that's Darlene. Okay, that's a really good one. Okay, and again, sometimes Bonham does those crashes at the end, like, and this is classic for tunes like that. Like sometimes just to crash those snares. Okay, you got a lot of that going on too. So classic Zeppelin recording, classic Bonham recording. This one's up there. You can really hear just exactly like the whole mojo of Bonham's and Page's and John Paul Jones's playing together.